In this part of the film, or in this part of whatever we're making here, I'd like to talk about the great Muhammad Ali, the champion fighter, both of physicality as well as human rights. Um, I was the front man for Dick Gregory's run across the United States, and it was 19, we were essentially trying to steal July 4th away from this. Just there was no issue but July 4th and the fireworks, and to make it more serious than that. So Dick ran from New York City to or from LA to New York City. Started on April 23rd, finished July 4th, coming into. So in the middle of the desert in, I think, New Mexico, he called me and he said, "Jack, I want you to go out and see Muhammad Ali." And I said, "Dick, he's fighting tonight. I can never get in there." He said, "No, I want you to go out there and see him for me. I want you to, we're not getting the publicity we need, so we want him to come out here and join me, and we can pick up publicity." Oh, okay, I'll try it, Dick. So I go out there, and sure enough, probably little Gregory, Dick's wife, set it up probably for me by phone call or something. But anyway, I got through the ranks of normally getting no's. I got through quickly. So it was probably little Gregory, maybe Dick himself called. But so I waited. A number of people, some were doing other things. I don't know what it was. It was kind of show and tell time. And sitting behind there is the biggest you ever saw. I mean, he was really the best looking man you could ever see. He was in perfect physical condition. It's amazing to see somebody like that. Ooh, I mean, really, his physicality and presence was amazing. And to say how good looking he was as well. So it was something to sit there and watch this, and his protection from the Nation of Islam, and the people lined up to see him, and how respectful everybody was. This was all beautiful stuff. This is the fight of a Jimmy Young fight. Everybody in the corridor is going crazy. Um, so I get in line. I finally get up in front of him, and I said, "Mr. Ali." I didn't know what to call him. "Mr. Ali, we need your support for Dick Gregory. He's running in the desert. We're not for world hunger, to fight world hunger. And we need your support because we're not getting the publicity we need. And Dick has come, to ask me to come here to ask you that." And he said, "Let me think about this." He said, "I'm going to destroy Jimmy Young tonight. I'm the greatest fighter in the world. I'm the greatest champion. I'm the greatest boxer of all time." I just kept saying, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir." Because I did believe that as well. I was going to say it anyway, whatever, but try a moment. And he said, let me, give me a second here. He says, "Do you want me to fly out there at my own expense, put on heavy shoes and boots and run in the desert? And of course, I'll be peeing blood from this fight. You want me to do that?" I said, "Yes, sir, I do." "All right," he said, "I'll do that. I'll take it on." This is the heavyweight champion of the world at the height of his power. Yeah, that boxing match went all over the world. It was amazing. So he puts me in the entourage to go to the fight. And actually, when we go in, one of those boxing where they come down the aisle, well, I was in there. I thought, I got to be the strangest little thing here that I've ever seen in a boxing match. So, well, we're ringside. The fight goes. It's too bloody for me because what you don't know, unless you're ringside, a lot of that blood and sweat comes off that off those bodies like a shower. I find it terrible. It's so painful to watch. So he Jimmy Young loses the fight to the great champion, and Muhammad Ali gets on TV. Immediately said exactly what I asked him to say. He said, "We're going out to support Dick Gregory in the fight against world hunger. I'll be joining him." And it went on. You can catch it on TV. I think ABC. It's there somewhere. And it was perfect. I can't believe a man fought for 15 rounds and then come to his senses and then be able to articulate what some favor was being asked of him to do at his own cost and his own experience. It was an amazing moment. So during the day before the fight, as the day went on, I was there about 1 or 2 in the afternoon. So we had the fight coming at night. Um, Muhammad Ali gets up from the desk, and says, hey there, Dick Gregory's guy, come with me. So I went with him, and there was a special class of children from somewhere nearby, and they wanted to meet the champion. So okay, so let's go over here. So we went over there. There was a telephone sitting there. He could just grab a phone, and the teacher was there, and there was about 12 students or something like that from nearby, and I don't know what they were special for, but there was some reason that this was a special group of people, of young students. And Muhammad Ali called every one of them over, stood next to them, asked for their telephone number. Teacher would know it, and then they would give the number to him. And Muhammad Ali called every one of their parents. Day of the Jimmy Young fight, he called every one of their parents. Say, "This is the greatest fighter in the world. I'm going to destroy Jimmy Young tonight." He repeat all of that. That was his mentality. He was keeping focus while doing good, and it was amazing. The other amazing thing Muhammad Ali did for me was when I did the MTV show live for 11 hours of rock and roll in 1968 or 1986. Dyslexia, I flipped my numbers around. Um, Muhammad, I called him, he and Dick Gregory, to come to this event that I was producing along with Bill Graham at Giant Stadium with MTV, and then we were in syndication from 7 o'clock on. So Muhammad comes in, and it was an amazing thing because I felt some connection with him, and he did too. And he said, "Hey Jack, how are you?" And, it was wonderful to hear something like that. And the champion, and he said, "Can I talk today?" I said, "Muhammad, that's why I called you. I want you to speak to the crowd." He said, "I can speak about whatever I want, right?" And, yeah, God, yeah, you're the human rights defender. Yes, I want you to do that. And he said, "Thank you." He said, "Do you know I've never been to a concert before? This is my first." I thought, boy, was I privileged or what? So the next part of this is sort of a little bit of a change, but I'm changing to is the ability to speak, and um, for all the people who get scared about giving a public speech, and there are millions of them, right? They should hear this next message, and maybe it'll help them out. The great Robert De Niro was that I asked him to speak at Giant Stadium as well in between the bands, breaks, on the breaks between the bands. And Robert De Niro, of course, is a human rights worker, as was his father, who was an artist and gave art to Amnesty we could sell. So I knew him a little bit. And so he came, and he was after a band, and the energy was up. And he says to me, "Jack," he said, "what do I do? What do I say?" I said, "Oh, Mr. De Niro, speak from your heart." He said, "Oh, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that." I said, "Well, there's a whole mess of public service announcements typed up on a piano nearby." And I grabbed them and said, "Why don't you just read one of those? They're all wonderful. Take one of them. They're all nice." And, "Oh, great." He said. So he went on and he started. It started him, though. And as he gave it, he warmed up to it and gave his own Bobby De Niro speech, which was beautiful. He I stood behind him, looking out at the crowd. And what I saw was his legs literally shaking. This is one of the most famous actors in the world, maybe. And his legs were shaking. He was scared. He was just scared as every speaker who goes out there to do something. And I was given probably 2 or 3 thousand speeches in my lifetime. I don't know, a lot. Um, my guess is I can tell you quite seriously, I get nervous every time. And so for those who are struggling with public speaking or their fear of it, um, they should know that you just got to learn to live with that fear, keep it, and then what it'll do is help you move forward. It'll eventually become your friend. that fear will become a friend of yours. And if you really need some inspiration right at the beginning of it, just call on your mother or a saint or whoever that you have a respect for, and just say, "This is for," and I would say for Fariel because I get scared. I'd say for my mother, and those two, memories of these two women motivate me deeply. So that's how I did my speeches. And you might try one of these tricks to get out there and do your best in front of a crowd because it's really worth it. People need to hear from each other in democracy. Thanks.
That's quite a story.